This is the Oklahoma Talking Company.
Welcome to the show, my friend. Thanks for coming round again.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment.
What's shaking, cats and kittens? This is Jason Baffrey, and you are on the OKC Show. And we have a great program lined up for you today. On the day of this recording, we are quickly approaching Independence Day. I just happened to see a story the other day that said it was the most and least patriotic states in the United States. And I just found this curious that Oklahoma ranked number 9 in most patriotic states, but it also monitored military engagement and civic engagement. Oklahoma was number 9 in military engagement, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, we obviously have a lot of people, or I know a lot of people that have gone into the military. But civic engagement, we were ranked 43rd, which I thought was just unbelievable. I mean, I would have expected that there were more people involved, and they based that upon voting, people that went out to vote, but then it also incorporated like people volunteering in certain areas and volunteering for the Peace Corps, which I didn't even realize that the Peace Corps was still that active. So maybe that's why we didn't rank high in civic engagement. But nevertheless, get out and vote, and let's bring that up. And everybody fly your flags this weekend, which will be now like probably 2 weeks ago when you're actually listening to this. So we have a great show, and I'm really excited about our guest today. You may have seen the blog called the Red Dirt Chronicles, and from that you may have seen a little something called Every Point on the Map. And today our guests are Kelly Roberts, otherwise known as Red Dirt Kelly, and April Kirby, otherwise known as April Kirby, and Rachel Apple. And hello, ladies.
Hi there.
Hello. Hi.
And so they have this project that they started back in 2014. Well, I think it probably started before that, but it really got going in 2014, and it is called Every Point on the Map. And so the goal was to go to every city/town in Oklahoma over a 10-year period. And so they've been on their way and been traveling around the state. And Kelly, tell us a little bit about where did this idea come from, and how do you come up with this? I can kind of see maybe I'm going to go to all 77 counties, but how do you make the decision to go to every city in the state?
All right. So it's a little quirky chain link thing, so bear with me, okay?
Sure.
I am a teacher and then a professor, and after every single semester of school in my life, I'd always just relax a little bit. And recently, over the last 10 or 15 years, I just started taking a short road trip, kind of like walking about in Australia, only, running around about in Oklahoma. And so I loved it. I would always try to go to very small, crevices, nooks and crannies of Oklahoma, strike up conversations, tiny diners, and just relax a little bit. And it really, really enriched my life. But dissertation time, 2013, I think I needed a bigger release. And sometime right before I defended, I just was stressed and I thought, I need a big trip. And then I went to 7-Eleven and I was looking at this map thinking, where am I going to go? And I counted the cities and towns and I just thought, by golly, I'm going to hit every one of these things. And so I started mulling that over, and then I finally said it out loud. And once I said it out loud, it was kind of a done deal. So
now, you picked up that map in 7-Eleven,
Yep.
and you counted the cities, and on that map there were 594 cities, and I read,
There's 593. We found one since.
Oh, you found one since. But I just, like your most recent blog is that you have found new maps and discovered that there are actually more cities than what you originally thought.
Correct. So everyone has their idea about what a point on the map is. And I will never talk to like a geographer because I don't even want to get started with them. But we were talking to a professor who was actually one of our conversations up in Stillwater. And he said, there's like 650 incorporated towns in Oklahoma. And I just had this moment in my head going, no. I wanted him to be, it to be less, but 594 is what we're sticking with because that's what 7-Eleven, handed in my lap, and I'm going with it. So.
But the interesting thing about this is it's not just you're visiting these cities, but you are documenting your time there by picking people out and talking to the people in each one of these cities, right?
Yeah, the why was for stress relief, but you could choose a lot of things for stress relief. It doesn't have to be a road trip. Right. And so fundamentally, who and what I'm about and what I care about is helping people understand a better sense of what Oklahoma and Oklahomans are about, helping them see the unique aspects and attributes that are positive qualities, because we get a lot of really bad national headlines. And so, and we've experienced a lot of stuff just in this past year. And so with that in mind, the meaningful conversation was just a standard that I wanted to set. Enough time with someone to get what they're about, what's important to them, what's been going on in their lives, how they're connected to the area, and maybe a story or two, but something that you would have if you're sitting on the porch, Yeah.
So how do you decide who you're going to talk to in each city? Do you go in and just find somebody that looks interesting, or do you know in advance what you're looking for?
Well, we refined these protocols. Okay. So at first, we were just running around, and I really think it was total chaos if you were tracking us like on a GPS, just
There was one point we were like rolling dice on the dashboard to see which direction we were going.
We were just kind of leaving it up to chance. But what we've done now is eventually we found that when you get into a town, you scope it out first. So we travel up and down Main Street. Rachel counts the churches. It's just something she's keeping in a little moleskin, how many churches are on Main Street, And we kind of cruise around to see where the population pockets are of people, what's going on in the town. If there's something like activity, we'll sort of zero in on that and then pick them, whoever that is, and start a conversation and just say, hey, this is our project. Here's what we're about. We love to have a conversation with you, or someone, that you're connected with that, might really love to be a part of our project. And from that point, they either say yes because they think that's cool. They say no way, especially because of the video and the audio, pictures kind of thing. Or they refer us. And usually that referral is sort of this person that has their pulse on the sense of the town. And that's when we settle in. But if something's not going on in town, we just head rule and start knocking on doors. So.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I haven't pointed out yet, Kelly, in this project, you are the words. You're the primary writer, I guess I would say. Rachel is doing photography, so she captures these incredible images of the people and the places in each city they visit. And then April is the videographer, and so they're capturing videos of these stories as well. So, Rachel, first what do you look for when you go into these cities? Are you looking for the character faces or the character places specifically, or do you have something that you look for that you help kind of guide who's going to be the person that you talk to or interview?
I think that usually when we've chosen someone, we're choosing half the time someone who's just willing to say yes, because there's a lot of times people will say no. Yeah. And then other times people that we're like, oh, they have a real cute house. Like, we should go knock on their door because those flower pots are killer, or they're like outside and cute, like in Bethel Acres, which I think is our next. I just edited those photos. So they were at a T-ball thing, and it was this cute family that all had their names on the back of their jerseys, and I actually didn't have any part in picking that, but I was happy that they picked them because they were darling. But what I really like, my favorite, is when we're indoors, usually because Oklahoma's very unforgiving when you're outdoors. And I really like when we have awesome, beautiful light inside, which what photographer doesn't. Sure. but like in Boley, we were in this dusty old cafe where it was like there's always lingering dust, and there was this harsh side light with these. It was like summer, and everybody kind of had sweat on their faces, but it was all side lit and perfect. And I was like, this is the best ever. And so then I drank a root beer. This kid shared his fried chicken, and we took some great portraits and talked to Pookie and Boley.
April, what about you?
Well, I think for me, I obviously am coming into my own now. I've gone on a few runs with them, but I was not part of it from the beginning. I kind of joined on early this year, and thankfully, because Kelly is very talented writer, but she can't do video very well. And so I came in to edit some stuff that she had already shot on her iPhone, I'm assuming, and had a difficult time. So I'm glad for that. So for me, it's kind of, I'm going to default. I take, most of the time, literally the back seat of the trip, and I'm obviously concerned with clear audio. So if I would prefer there to not be running fans or blasts of an air conditioner next to the microphone, but I
can relate.
Yeah, I trust Rachel enough to kind of see where we're going to sit our subject down, that if her eye thinks it looks good, then I'll be able to find a good image as well. So I'm not as picky. Once in a while I'll say right or left, but for the most part I feel like I'm also here to document what Rachel and Kelly are doing as well. So.
Yeah. April, how did you get involved with the crew and decide to jump in with this journey?
We were at an engagement party for one of our friends that we were both bridesmaids for recently. And we hadn't actually met, but our mutual friend had talked about the other person quite a lot, enough that we knew who each other were in theory. And Rachel kind of came up to me and was like, hey, would you ever want to like trade lessons? Like you could teach me about video and maybe I could teach you about photography. And I was like, sure.
She's being really nice. I was like, we suck so bad, April. April, we need, like, I've seen your videos and they're beautiful and we suck so bad. And our project is awesome. And our project is better than the videos that we're able to do. Like that was the biggest stressor we had for the first year. It was just like I would get anxiety about it, and she did most of it. And the one she asked me to do, I didn't do it. So that's when I was like, April, please, April, I need help.
But so she told me about the project, and I was like, well, but if you're interested, instead of just teaching you how to do it, I'd be happy to like be a part of it. And obviously, it's a lot to be like, I'm in it for 10 years, but I'm really interested in the project, and as long as I'm able to, I want to be a hand in it for sure. And it's been so great. I was like pretty hesitant because you're like kind of coming as an outsider. And then I was having to backlog all these older videos that weren't my style in any way or quality. No offense. A little offense. But it's definitely been really great to add some quality. And for me, it's changed. I'm having to learn and grow in what I do and how I do it to adapt to the project. And the project has to adapt a little bit to what I bring to it as well. But it all kind of started as a random question at an engagement party, and almost a year later. Yeah.
So Kelly, talk a little bit about you've been to several cities now, obviously, with kind of almost a year or a little over a year invested into this. Give me some highlights.
Okay. Well, yes, we did our pilot, I think it was May of last year. March? Was it that early? Wow. Yeah, that pilot, that was a hoot. We may talk about that one. So we have been, basically, the places that we went first were chosen from the donors to our Kickstarter project. And that was one of the levels of giving. If you give $100, you can pick a 10-town route. We'll hit as many as we can. And so really where we went was based upon what our donors' moods were, or probably where they had the sense of place, in Oklahoma. So it's only been this last run where we were actually released from the donors. And so then we started a little bit different place, of waiting, like thinking about how we're going to choose where we're going to go and wanting to color a big piece of the map in and, that kind of thing. So highlights. I brought the map so that if you want to pick a random place, you can ask us a question. But we've been to 54 now, which means that we are only 5 away from the 10% mark.
Nice.
And that's exciting. I mean, that is awesome. And so we have really spent a lot of time down Highway 9, far northeast Oklahoma. We went down to the Holdenville, Cromwell area, of course, a little bit around here. And then now we just recently went out to Dewey County, also a little bit north and northeast around the Guthrie area. And so the people that I think about probably are different every single day. Today, I'm thinking about the stories that we just got back from. You know, that's the ones that are on my mind. We just got finished with our Dewey County run, and, you know, in western Oklahoma, the houses are miles apart, and it's really a very different feel than it is up in Northeast. So I'll tell you about one guy. The first stop we made in Dewey County was in a little place called Putnam. Putnam is a very old town, and the guy that we talked to, his name was Tuffy, and he had been known by the name of Tuffy ever since he was born.
Now, I just have to point out that my grandmother had a dog named Tuffy.
Well, you know, there could be something there. Ever since, did she name the dog the point that the dog was born?
I don't know.
Should ask her how Tuffy got his name, because we found out how Tuffy got his name. Evidently, back in the day, this was 1929, doctors are very scarce, and Tuffy's mom is having a very difficult delivery. And so the doctor was already out on a call. So, no technology. They send people out to the main street and watch for the doctor to come back from the country to flag him down and go, baby, And so the doctor didn't come. And finally, I guess they drug up some kind of chiropractor in the area. And he was either breech or something, because they had to flip the baby and turn elbows and shoulders and all kinds of things. And it was a really, really hard delivery. So he was christened Tuffy. And something that he shared with us that he kept the basketball clock at Arapahoe High School for 50 years.
Wow.
And he's taught ag for 30 years. And he has not worn anything except his overalls from the day that he retired. So, Tuffy was a cool guy.
Yeah, that's great. I read a story about the guy that you met in Pryor who started the newspaper after he'd worked at the local newspaper, went off and started his own. But he was a big heavy metal guy or band guy on his way to Rocklahoma, and he just sounded fascinating to me.
That was his partner. We talked to Terry, and his partner was the rock guy.
Oh, okay.
He was he dragged us into his partner's office who wasn't even there. He's like, you have to see his office. You'll love his office. You'll love his office. And he made us look at all the posters and told us all about it. And then he brought us into his own office. He's like, it's not as cool, but
yeah.
But that's his paper.
Yeah, that's his paper. I brought it today. There are 3 that make up that whole paper. So the Rocklahoma guy is one of them, and he does all the ads, and he does sort of the marketing and business stuff. And so, yes, he is a fascinating guy, and he is obsessed with memorabilia. And then we talked to Terry Allward, who he was the editor. He writes everything, but it's just a 3-person shop, and that was a really awesome stop. That building was cool. He was cool. I mean, they had a lot of neat stories. So
it's amazing the individual stories that exist in life, really, but that never get told, that many people don't hear unless they're connected directly to somebody. But I mean, the fact that you guys are out there able to tell these fascinating stories that otherwise may not be heard is just really great. It's got to be fun for you to go out and learn these things and meet these people like this.
There's always this moment right before someone starts a big story where you just think that could just be another question with, out a lot of thing behind it. And then here it comes. And it's just this quality of history that you don't even know what to do with, but it's fascinating. We've got a lot of stories, but I don't want to, interrupt the process here. What were you thinking?
I was going to say that, my biggest passion where I want to get in life is to be able to ideally cover my passport with stamps, but meet people and be able to tell their stories from around the world, because what's so crazy to me is, as big as the world is, people have this whole completely different perspective of it depending on where they are. And what's been cool about this particular project is seeing that Oklahoma, it is built up of small towns. It is a place I've wanted to leave almost my whole life, but there's amazing people with amazing stories that teach you something every single time you meet them. And to see kind of their perspective on this world and on this planet and on this state, it's been pretty impactful to what I want to do and how I want to do it.
Yeah. Rachel, I'm curious, as a photographer looking at this from a visual standpoint, what is a story that stuck out to you? I mean, somebody that really captured your lens, if you will.
I think that it's hard for me to separate like just the images that I get from the experience of getting them. So they're all kind of tied up together. So maybe some of my best work isn't even something that I feel really proud of or really like my favorite, because it was a different kind of experience or something. But I think that when we went up to our picture card-in run, what was the town that we were scared of when we drove in?
Lenora. No,
Lenora was in
Peoria.
Peoria.
Yeah.
We drove into Peoria, and we passed the Welcome to Peoria sign, and this dog just runs at our car barking. And I'm a dog person. Like, I have 2 big dogs. I love dogs. Every time we're on the trip, I seek out the dogs and spend my time with them. And this dog freaked me out. And then April needed to get a drive-by of the sign for the video, so we had to flip back around and like drive by again, and the dog comes barking at us again, and we're like, "Ooh, this is kind of ominous." And then we drive up and down the little tiny main street, and it seems just kind of deliverance-y. It just seemed like there was a lot of guns and probably a lot of different ideals than I hold, and
lots of bars on the window. It was gray and rainy that day.
Yeah,
it was just, the setting was dark.
I know, and I was all like, I don't want to talk to anybody here. What if they shoot us? I don't know. And so finally, there was one house we had driven by that had a screened-in porch, and like usually porches are nice common areas for people to meet us on the porches. They don't have to bring us into their homes. We don't have to go into their homes, and we can sit on the porch and have a conversation. But there was a screened-in porch, and I was like, we should go there because it's rainy, so maybe we can sit on their little porch. And then after not being able to talk to a couple people, we wound up at that place. And there was this 77-year-old woman and her 9-year-old adopted daughter. And they were so sweet together. And she had fostered her since she was a newborn. And just like, I thought that, obviously I thought it was grandma, and she started talking about it, and she had her school pictures, and she's like, I fostered her, then I adopted her. And just them sitting on this like old lazy boy recliner, and the mom was in the chair and the daughter was on the arm of the chair, and they were right next to this. They brought us inside the house. It was like a trailer kind of house, but it was really nice and neat. And they're right by the windows. There was side light again. And they kept like holding hands or putting our arms around each other like the whole hour or so that we were there. Just their interactions were so sweet, and like being able to capture this totally non-traditional family structure in this, what I thought was a creepy town, and kind of how I did a 180 on the town because of the relationship that these two had.
Sure. Yeah, that's really great. Has there been, have you gone into a town where they were just like, what are you doing here? We don't want you around, anything like that? I mean, any bad experiences that you care to share?
Well, I have this hypothesis forming, and my hypothesis is the more suburbia, the less engagement. And I don't know that it's going to play out over time, but we did sort of run into that at Owasso.
Yeah.
We knocked on 10 doors, and everyone said no. And it got really discouraging. It was right after Christmas. Everybody's got Christmas, like decorations everywhere, and, it should be a jolly time, and it was a holiday, and nobody wanted to talk to us. And it felt really discouraging after a while. And so I think there's 2 factors there. One is we go a lot out on Mondays, and Mondays are sort of down times.
Right.
Museums are closed. Sometimes tea shops are closed. There's just a lot of people that don't work on Mondays. And so it's a little bit more shuttered, in terms of a town vibe than other days. And so it was a Monday. I'll give them that. but 10, that wasn't cool.
Yeah.
So,
Then there was String.
yeah, String was also, String is a town that really has zero commerce. There's one little tiny store, and I'm not quite sure what they sell there, but it looks like it could be a secondhand store or something. But otherwise, everything is shut down. Everything is falling down. Everything, the paint is peeling. The structures are leaning. So there's really not a lot there at all. And we went by people who looked at us with such, like the dagger looks that we didn't even stop and talk to them. And normally I'll talk to anybody, but I couldn't engage some people there. So
That was April's first family that she chose. The Flemings.
They had a cute little sign on their porch with their name, and it just looked like they would be nice.
And they were.
They were awesome.
They were really great. I forget her first name.
I'll think of it in a second.
Trisha?
Yeah, Trisha.
Trisha Fleming really helped me. It was probably the first conversation I had where she eloquently stated why small town Oklahoma was not just where somebody grew up and they were stuck with it, but where they really prefer to be there. And she was someone who described herself as transplanted or right? Transplanted is what she said. She was a transplant from Texas to String, Oklahoma because of her husband. And she talked about just how wonderful it was to live in String and the views that she had and the sunset that she could see every day. And knowing her neighbors and feeling that like community. She's an EMT. That was her job, and being able to work on her people that she knew is, both parts a good thing and a bad thing. But she helped really shape kind of my new opinion on, okay, small town, it's got its perks. It's got its things, and people are really proud of being from small towns.
Sometimes I cry. And in their corner, okay, I cry a lot.
All the time.
I do. I'm overly empathetic with these people. I don't know what the deal is, but in their corner of their limit, he's a policeman and she's an EMT. So in the corner, there are 2 police dogs, the ashes of those dogs, and their pictures and their medals. And they told the stories of the dogs. And of course, I'm boohooing. And it's like this memorial that they have right there in the room with them. They don't forget them, and so that was pretty touching.
Yeah. So you're a year in on the project. The ultimate goal is 10 years to accomplish all of this. I mean, after a year involved, I mean, are you still? It sounds like you're still passionate, but I mean, do you see this carrying out for 10 years? I'm
kind of known to not start something unless I finish.
We're pretty stubborn.
Yeah, we are.
All right. That's great. So do you have a goal? I mean, do you like how many cities you hit in a month, or how does that work?
Well, if you do the math, you can know that we're almost at 600 total towns, so we would have to do 60 a year, right? Okay. So if we can go out 10 months out of the 12-month years and then hit at least 6 on each run, then we'll make it. You just have to take it down. It's like the little bite-sized thing for the elephant goal, right?
It's really exciting that you guys are doing this. I mean, I think it's so cool. What has been the response to the website and the blog and stories that you tell? I mean, what kind of response are you getting from people?
John Grisham wrote a book about owning a small town newspaper, and he said all you have to do to make money is throw in stories about the people who are the subscribers. And it's been really interesting because most of our web traffic is completely regionally based, depending on whatever we're deploying. So if we deploy something in Spabinaw, Oklahoma, which is around the Grand Lake area, all the Grand Lake people are just, trading it around, commenting and, passing it back and forth. And so it's that local readership. But we're starting to build a real solid base of continual readers as well. And then there's random acts. Like, for instance, we happened to just get bizarrely invited into Duffy Martin's house when we hit Cedar Valley. We were just going to talk to the bartender. The next thing we know, we're on golf carts going to his house. The guy that took us just opened the door and walked in. That's that tight-knit community.
Right.
And so he spent a long time with us, showing us his fart machine. We're laughing our heads off. He's back and he's doing weights and lifting, but 6 months later he died. And so then all of a sudden, boom, that one blew up, because it was really well known. I mean, He was the oldest person in the PGA membership, and so some other things. So just serendipitously, we've also gained traction too, but it's kind of just building very slowly over time.
Any celebrities that you've run into along the way?
I think he's it. I think Duffy's our celebrity.
Yeah, Duffy's your celebrity. So, you haven't been to, what is it, Altus, or not Altus? Where is it that Blake Shelton and Miranda Lambert, you didn't accidentally run into them in the coffee shop, anything like that yet?
Talked to Gary England's niece.
Really?
Yeah.
We did.
Does she have any good stories?
Well, actually, we were just stopping in to say hi.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk. Sorry.
That's our brush with greatness, I guess.
There you go. What about great places? Have you found any just fantastic place that people need to go to, and that in a place that you wouldn't expect?
Spavinaw.
Spavinaw?
I think we all love Spavinaw. It was so cute. It's right next to the Grand Lake, and it was just so quiet, but close enough to be able to go to the lake. And I think that all of us were just really into that town. And Disney.
Yeah.
You should tell him about Russ.
Yeah, if you
tell
like
me about Russ.
ATV riding.
Yeah.
Russell Hogan has
AKA Paul Bunyan.
has this ATV park that great man. He will not shut up about it. And for good reason. I mean, we sat down and talked with him in a little diner, and he was like, I can't just tell you about this. I have to show you. And he took us on what he calls a big ambulance. It's what he uses to get ATVs unstuck, really. And takes us 30, 40 minutes all across his land outside of the dam. We were in Disney, Oklahoma. And it just, I think especially when you're in this part of Oklahoma, you forget that Oklahoma can be so pretty, and there was just trees and water, and we're driving through the water, and we're driving vertically, I'm pretty sure. And
it's horrifying.
It was horrifying. He just goes right down in the water. We're in this MASH unit, this big Mercedes, I don't know how many feet tall, but the tires were about the size of my head, And so we're in there and gripping the sides.
And the seats aren't nailed down. They're going funk, funk, funk each time he hits a bump.
Yeah. He goes down into the water and he goes, in Arkansas, this would be strictly illegal, And so anyway, he just kind of probably gets the oil from the vehicle into the water. I don't know. But he's really passionate about the land owners are the citizens of Oklahoma, because your taxes are paying for our state lands. So you need to have access to the lands. And he's been to court 3 times. He's won all 3 times. He quoted the law to us. He started crying when he was talking about his grandmother's, graves and foundations. I mean, April's right.
We were in PJ's Diner, which might still be for sale. You can have the diner and the house behind it for $135?
$135.
Wow.
Well, yeah, if you want to go to Disney and own the PJ's Diner.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. But he had framed his piece of legislation and stuck it on our wall.
Yeah.
He was a hoot.
So I have to ask, have you been to Slick yet? All right. Well, it's a place you just kind of slide right through, but you'll enjoy it. How about Slap Out? Been to Slap Out? All right. Well, just a couple of the places that I've been to in my travels around Oklahoma. So I actually, several years ago, took a couple of tours around to a bunch of small places. I went to Eagle, which is down in southeast Oklahoma, which I had a similar frightening experience there. I'm pretty sure I walked into a diner in Eagle, and I wasn't sure that I was going to walk out. So that was interesting. So I appreciate what you guys are doing on the trip or trips. How about traveling together? You guys all 3 pile in the car, and you seem very close here, but any times where you've wanted to kick the other person out or anything like that?
We've talked about this because Kelly's my mom, and usually we've traveled together. I'm 28, so for 28 years, and mostly it's if we're on the very last end of a 3 or 4 day trip, then we're both just why didn't you do a U-turn there? Well, you should have taken a left. Well, I didn't want to take a left. Well, I don't even think we're in that town right now. And that's a big part of it. Sometimes we don't know where the hell we are. Yeah. Because GPS doesn't know what town we're in, and the map, you can't tell where you are on the map, and then you don't know where the actual town delineations are. And sometimes people have different mailing addresses than their physical, where their like county lines are. And sometimes we just like can't decide, does this person, are they even in the town that we're trying to be in? Especially with Lima and New Lima. I still am not sure which one was which, quite frankly.
And April riding in the back seat with these two must be challenging.
Well, I think for the most part, it's just kind of, I'll sit back and I'll text my husband commentary a lot of times. But I think that for the biggest thing, it's just, I am an outsider for all intents and purposes. I mean, mother-daughter duo plus April. So I think it's just, I don't always get like what they're talking about all the time. But I think for the most part, we have a lot of common interests and we have a lot of common values. And this project is something that brings us together on a way that for the most of the time that we're together, we're talking about the project and that's our common goal. So we're not really getting too far off things.
Not
that
a lot
I
of
think
bickering and things like that going on.
No, I don't think it's too bad.
It's a constant decision-making process, just decision-making. Go here, where's next, how long, what's our schedule like? I mean, it's just really the dialogue is almost always project-based until we're finished for the day. And then we're exhausted, and so, but I think April sells herself short. She's sort of integrating into the system just as another person, and we sort of team make decisions and stuff.
Sure. So where's the next outing? Where do you head next?
The far panhandle out there, isn't it? Clayton, New Mexico is just right across the border, but it's the far square, and so we can make that whole square in 2 days. We may have to do a 3-day trip because it takes so long to get out there.
Yeah, I'll give you a little hint. It smells. Lots of pig farms, lots of smell. So just be prepared for that.
I don't handle that well.
Yeah.
What was the grain elevator one?
Navina.
Ugh. I had to wear a bandana around my face because they were getting all of this, whatever the stinkiest substance on earth is, out of the bottom of this grain elevator in the middle of a hot, windy day. And I was trying to set up, I take 4x5 film portraits of each person, so that's not a small feat setting up and tearing down that camera each time. And we're downwind of this muck, and I have the most sensitive stomach ever, and I'm trying not to vomit all over my mom and this guy and my camera, and I don't handle stinky well.
Yeah, Kelly, take some barf bags when you head up to the panhandle for Rachel, because if she thinks, it's going to be bad.
No.
My experience up there was smelly. Well, I just so appreciate you ladies coming in and joining us on the OKC Show. It's been fascinating to hear the stories, and I so appreciate what you're doing. You can read and view the photos and the videos and everything if you go to reddirtchronicles.com. You can follow them on Twitter. EveryPointOK is kind of the main Twitter address, and then you can follow Red Dirt Kelly on there as well. And if you guys want people following you, or do you just want them to go to EveryPointOK? Yeah. Rachel Apple and April Kirby, you can find them on Twitter as well. Kelly, April, Rachel, thank you so much for coming into the OKC Show and sharing your stories and your travels.
Thanks for having us.
All right. You can find more of the OKC Show at oklahomatalking.co. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. You can follow Oklahoma Talking. You can also follow OKC Show. And go like our Facebook pages as well. And be sure to tell your friends to check out everything that's going on at oklahomatalking.co. I'm Jason Baffrey. We're out of here.
The OKC Show is a production of Destiny Creative.